Court, please come to order. We have a quorum present, and all the court here in present, and all notices have been duly posted, and the court is duly called. Is there a motion to open court?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Fail, please open court.
All right. The Dallas County Commissioners Court is now in session for the April 2013 term with Honorable Judge Jenkins presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation.
And an invocation today will be given by guest of Commissioner Price.
Judge, Commissioners, this morning we're very pleased to have with us Pastor Gregory L. Drake. Pastor Drake is a man after God's own heart. He's ready and willing to serve God's people. And his personality demonstrates strong vivacity as he interacts with people of all nationalities. His greatest passion is reaching lost souls by winning them to Christ. Pastor Drake attended Jarvis Christian College as well as Dallas Theological Seminary Center for Biblical Studies. He currently serves as a member of the DeSoto Chamber of Commerce. He's also a member of the DeSoto Police and Clergy Organization, DPAC. He serves as the Southwest Regional Representative for the Financial Assistance Council of the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship. Not only does Pastor Drake have a passion for the growth and development of the people of God that has been sent to Jubilee Church, but he is also concerned with the growth and development of other churches and their leadership. God has given him a vision of creating seminars and training classes to enhance other ministries, to help them move to another dimension in serving God's people in excellence. He has been very successful at leadership development, church planting, and mentoring others. Although Pastor Drake has accomplished many goals, his role as a husband and a father are his greatest strength. He's been married to Tanyika L. Kraft Drake for 19 years, and through this union, they birthed 3 beautiful children, Ida, Gregory II, and Ida. His favorite scripture is Romans 8:28. And we know all things work together for the good of them that love God, to them that are called according to his purpose. And he happens to be the pastor for Mr. Darrell Martin.
Thank you, Commissioner. Shall we pray? Father, we are so thankful today. God, we realize that you gave us a mind for meditation. You gave us a heart for circulation. God, you gave us feet for transportation. God, you gave us our skin for insulation. So you are a great giving God. Lord, today we want to say thank you. We realize that things could be better, but they could also be worse. So, Lord, today we thank you for the property that we call Dallas County. Thank you for great leadership. Lord, we thank you for a county that will yet acknowledge you and what they do. Lord, we even now pray for those that are in Boston, those that are yet in the hospital, experienced tragedy on yesterday. Lord, even in our own county, the bus accident on last week. But God, we thank you because you are yet God. So we love you today. Thank you for the families that reside in Dallas County. Thank you for, you said that you would never leave nor forsake us. So thank you for peace and unity. And Lord, even in a meeting like this today, thank you that you would help us to make great decisions for the people of this county. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
First resolution today will be read by Commissioner Cantrell.
Judge and Commissioner, it's certainly my pleasure today to introduce a resolution involving National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And I think Heather Koval is here, and that your contingency can come up. And I'll read the resolution and move its adoption. Whereas 18.7 million Americans are directly harmed by crime each year, and each crime affects many more family members, friends, neighbors, and co-workers. And whereas crime can leave a lasting physical, emotional, or financial impact on people of all ages and abilities, and of all economic, racial, and social backgrounds. And whereas in 1982, the President's Task Force on Victims of Crime envisioned a national commitment to a more equitable and supportive response to victims. And whereas the nation heeded this call to action and promoted victim rights initiatives, effective and compassionate victim services, and just compensation and financial support. And whereas today, thousands of victim assistance programs provide help and support to child victims of violence and sexual abuse, stalking victims, survivors of homicide victims, victims of drunk driving crashes, and victims of domestic, dating, and sexual violence and other crimes. And whereas now is the time to embrace new solutions that involve new partnerships with underserved communities and a greater emphasis on learning what works and meeting victims' needs. And whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week, April 21st through the 27th of 2013, provides an opportunity to celebrate the energy, creativity, and commitment that launched the victim rights movement, inspired its progress, and continues to advance the cause of justice for crime victims. And whereas Dallas County is joining forces with victim service providers, criminal justice agencies, and concerned citizens to raise awareness of victims' rights and observe National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court is hereby approved and hereby proclaimed the week of April 21st through April 27th, 2013 as Dallas County Crime Victims' Rights Week in hopes of reaching every victim of crime. And I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Excellent. Heather, if you'd like to introduce, say a few words, and also have either introduce your contingency or have them introduce themselves.
My name is Heather Coble. I'm the Victim Services Supervisor for the Irving Police Department. And National Crime Victims' Rights Week is such an important time for us to recognize that the collaboration of agencies becomes paramount to victims receiving the services, the healing, and the help that they need to move forward with their lives. There's so many resources and services that a victim needs once a crime has occurred. And so with agencies working together, we're able to link victims quickly and efficiently through the system that can be overwhelming and burdensome. So I'll let you have a few representatives of the Crime Victim Council of Dallas County here, and I'll let them represent themselves.
Great.
I'm Catalina Laviada, and I'm a bilingual victims advocate for Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Deanna Gonzalez, Adult Probation Victim Services.
Victor Ramirez, Adult Probation Victim Services.
Coralie Gregory, Victim Salvage. Thank you so much.
Victim Coordinator, DA's Office, Austin.
Thank you all very much for what you do.
Next resolution will be read by Commissioner Price.
Judge, Commissioners, this morning, and I don't see the mayor. He's here? There you are. Okay, I need that delegation to come forward. He's out of place. He's usually, yeah, he's, whereas the DeSoto Independent School District had made its mission and plan to prepare each student academically and socially to be a problem solver and productive citizens of the 21st century global society, whereas the DeSoto Independent School District is fully supported in that effort by Mayor Carl Sherman, the council, and government by allowing highly recommended students to assume the role of mayor for a day in order to promote civic knowledge and responsibility. And whereas Indigo Dillon has been advanced and submitted by those who know her well and wholeheartedly accept her vita as meeting and exceeding all requisite components for consideration. And whereas Indigo Dillon has proven herself a model student by maintaining an attendance record of 98% or more exceeding the A honor roll average of 3.5 GPA, and her submission of a well-thought-out essay on why she should fill the post of mayor for a day. And whereas Indigo Dillard exhibits the level of commitment and character that deserves to be emulated and modeled for all DeSoto ISD students at every level, therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court do hereby with great pride join with the DeSoto ISD administration, teachers, staff, and community as it hails Indigo Dillard as mayor for a day for 2013, and be it further resolved that the practice of immersing our youth in the practice and understanding of citizenship and leadership be lauded throughout Dallas County and our city.
Second.
Those in favor?
Mayor?
Commissioners, Judge, I am proud to stand with Mayor Dillard. Indigo Dillard is a young lady that the entire school district and citizens of DeSoto are proud to have as a part of our 9,000 student body school district. Her father, Joe Dillard, is here, and you can tell I've been talking with him a while why her daughter is a part of this group of students that really stands out. I could call her Dr. Dillard because that's what she's going to be, a pediatrician. And I could call her a cheerleader because she is an excellent cheerleader for the DeSoto Eaglettes and an Eagleette. I asked her how is it she's able to maintain her ability to keep her academics a priority. She said one word, time management. Well, 2 words, time management. She says that she gets her work done first, and then she does other things if she can, if she has time to do that. The thing that makes us so proud is that she is really looking to not only do well beyond DeSoto, but she wants to move back to the city of DeSoto after she's practicing to be a doctor. So, Mayor Dillard is here with Dr. Rucker from the school district, along with Kathy Jones, who is our community relations person. So I'm going to ask them to come and join us, and then Mayor Jones. Mayor Dillard.
Thank you so much for inviting me here to the court today. I appreciate everything that you said about me.
Well, first of all, I want to say a couple of things. First of all, to Mayor Sherman and to Dr. Harris, and in his absence, he's the superintendent for DeSoto. I really appreciate the way DeSoto continues to try to involve all of the student body population in the public arena. But I also want to thank them on Saturday. The juvenile department did do the right thing. So Dr. Perna was there and took care of business. I had a morning breakfast to me and I had to speak to, came there and spoke, and then went to a funeral, and then that night joined the mayor and the superintendent and others at the DeSoto Foundation banquet that night. So we had a full day. But I just really appreciate DeSoto coming, first of all, into that whole do the right thing. The right thing is WRIT. It's an essay of national proportion. And by the way, I think for the first year, DeSoto won.
That is correct.
And so we applaud them for not only their participation, but the energy and effort, as I said Saturday in my presentation to the teachers, to the administrators, to all the students who were part of Do the Right Thing. Marion Wright Elliman, founder of the Children's Defense Fund, and someone who I admire and quote quite frequently, says, "I don't care what my children choose to do professionally. Just as long as within their choice they understand that they've got to give something back. Mayor Dole, sounds like you understand that. Thank you for being here.
And Dr. Dillon, or Dr. Canada Dillon, you can do this one thing for us. Here in Dallas County, we only have 19% of our doctors who see Medicaid patients. So when you get out, you'll have a lot of responsibility, a lot of bills to pay as a doctor. But I hope you will come home to Dallas County and to DeSoto. And I hope you'll see some Medicaid patients and you'll talk to your doctoral candidates about the importance of seeing those folks. They don't pay great, but they're God's children and they need medical care. So God bless you for doing this job and doing that job. Being good student.
By that time, even though you're going to do pediatrics, he'll be on Medicaid, so.
It's a selfish thing. These jobs, as John will tell you, these jobs don't pay much.
Mayor, thank you very much for allowing us to celebrate your group in such a long. Thank you very much.
Good job on the time management. Everything good. Did it? You got your phone?
Got it, paper, okay.
Next resolution is from Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, colleagues, members of the audience. I have the great pleasure today to read a resolution for a group that I have been the pleasure to work with for many years. And I'm going to ask Ms. Jamie Borner to come forward with her team. Almost 10 years ago, it was just a dream about helping those young women who had kids with low weight. And I still remember when we put the groundbreaking for what is now the Calumet Low Weight Center in North Cliff. And it has become one of those centers that is always buzzing, helping people, educating young women how to raise a healthy child after many challenges, sometimes in pregnancy. So the resolution reads as follows. Whereas the Dallas County Commissioners and other local organizations, in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the Week of the Young Child, April 14 to the 20th, 2013. And whereas early childhood centers such as the Low Birth Weight Development Center and these organizations are working to improve early learning opportunities, including early literacy programs that can provide a foundation of learning for children in Dallas County. And whereas teachers and others who make a difference in the life of young children in Dallas County deserve thanks and recognition, and whereas public policies that support early learning for all young children are crucial to young children's future. Now therefore, be resolved that Dallas County Commissioners Court officially does proclaim April 14 to the 20th, 2013 as the Week of the Young Child in Dallas County. I encourage all citizens to work to make a good investment in early childhood education. And I so proudly move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you, Commissioner and Judge. We appreciate your time and
letting us come today. It has been 10 years since we moved into our new building. We celebrate our 21st year this year in Oak Cliff. We've helped more than 6,000 children and families. And looking at Nadia here, she started at 2 pounds. So, and I'd like to introduce her mom, Amber. She's one of our parents there, very involved.
Hi, I'm Amber Cruz. My daughter goes to the low birthday. She did weigh 2 pounds when she was born. She's very happy now. I am enrolled in the prenatal, so we'll see how this one goes when we go full time.
One thing I would like to say about our center is that we are the only early head start center in the country that takes low birth weight infants right from the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit. We just had our federal review, which anybody can kind of understand what that's like. And we were the only center in the nation to get a recommendation, actually, not a write-up saying you need to do something better, but a recommendation of, hey, let's everybody do it like we do it kind of thing. So I encourage anybody to come visit us. We're in Oak Cliff. We're kind of busy doing all kinds of stuff, and we really like to see visitors all the time. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Jane, and you also have an event, May 11th.
We're having an event May 11th at Park Lane Event Center. It is free to come. We recognize people in the community that just have given back to us. Dr. Garcia was an award winner. We give out awards of hope. She was an award winner 2 years ago. Last year, the mayor was there. This year, the retired president of the Catholic Foundation, who has worked tirelessly to help us get our land and our building, is going to be recognized along with some other people. So I just encourage you, you can go to lowbirthweight.org and you can find out all about it. It's a free event. It's really fun. We have, a jazz trio, all kinds of things. Cornbread, like I said, free. So come out and kind of
help the great organization. And thank you, Jane, for everything you do.
Finally, I've got a bring-up resolution honoring a friend and local attorney who died here recently, the late Roger Williams. It was Ken Moberg is here to represent the family and see the resolution. I'll be reading it. Whereas Roger G. Williams was a prominent attorney whose career in Dallas County spanned 4 decades. Whereas shortly after graduating from Southern Methodist University School of Law, Roger became the founding member of Wilson, Williams, and Moberg, where he practiced for nearly 30 years. He served as president of the Dallas Trial Lawyers Association, as well as later was elected president of the Dallas chapter of the American Board of Trial Advocates. Additionally, Roger was a longtime director of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association, as well as a fellowship member of that organization. Whereas Roger prided himself on his representation of the little guys, and often referred to himself, was often referred to rather, as a people's lawyer by friends and colleagues. He was a dedicated lawyer who was highly regarded as tough and fair. Whereas despite his lengthy renowned legal career, Roger loved his family above all else. His adoration for his wife Nancy and his children Kristen and Stephen was always evident. Those who knew and loved him recalled his outgoing personality, his humor, his desire to fix objects with wire and duct tape. Say that Roger Williams was one of a kind with the understatement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court is hereby acknowledged the passing of Roger Williams as a husband, loving father, a faithful son and brother, and joins a countless number of relatives and friends who celebrate his life with many worthwhile contributions to our county and our country. That's a motion. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Judge Jenkins, Commissioners, I want to just take a moment to express my thanks to you for the special recognition of my law partner of 30 years and best friend of 40 years. And I bring on behalf of the family from Nancy Rogers' wife of 36 years and his 2 children, Stephen and Kristen, a message of their deep appreciation for what you have done for us today. Roger was truly a fine lawyer and a fine man, and someone who will be missed by this community. So thank you.
It will be so.
favor? Next, we have a motion on the bids.
I move the award of bids.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
And I'll take it just for commentary that the memo generated by Ms. Brown was appropriate with regards to the vehicles, and I would totally approve.
We'll find a way to make some better notations without all the recommendations we want.
And I'm not ever sure that sometimes the participants realize that that's at play. I think I would probably suggest to the department that also that they kind of highlight that. That might aid in better advantage for Dallas County. Okay? Thank you.
Next, we'll consider court orders 10 through 35, pulling court order 15 for a separate discussion and vote because they have a 8-to-10-minute video to show us before that vote. We have a motion on
Court orders 10 through 35. Court order 15.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on 10 through 35? Pulling 15? Say the vote. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion on court order 15? So moved. Second. All right, court 15 is PCCI. Doctor, please come forward and do your contingency.
Thanks for inviting us here today. I'm Stephen Roth, Deputy General Counsel of the Department of Health and Hospital Systems, and I also serve as Chief Counsel for the Parkland Center for Clinical Innovation. Over the last 12 years, I've worked with many talented and dedicated people at Parkland. And I can honestly tell you that I've never worked with a more talented, innovative, and passionate group than Dr. Amar and his team. Their cutting-edge work will continue to improve healthcare for the citizens of Dallas County and after today, nationwide. It is my honor to introduce my friend and colleague, Dr. Ruben Amarisian, the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Parkland Center for Clinical Innovation.
Steve, thank you for that introduction and for your tireless work on behalf of Parkland and PCCI. Commissioners and Judge, thank you for allowing me to address you today. The Parkland Center for Clinical Innovation, also known as PCCI, is a nonprofit research and development corporation born out of Parkland and Dallas County and committed to improving patient safety and quality, particularly for the most vulnerable patients. The software that we have created is called PIECES. At its essence, PIECES tries to predict the future of the patient. It tries to predict what may happen to a patient before it actually happens by sifting through vast amounts of electronic medical record data and applying precise mathematical and clinical predictions. The application of PIECES at Parkland has resulted in a sustained decrease in heart failure readmissions for more than 2 years. Through external grant funding from organizations such as the Commonwealth Fund, the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, the W.W. Cruz Jr. Foundation, the National Institutes of Health, and the National Cancer Institute, we are now expanding this work for many more conditions, including septic shock, surgical complications, high blood pressure, chronic kidney disease, pediatric asthma, cancer, and readmissions for HIV, cirrhosis, and acute myocardial infarction. This is just the beginning. We are excited about the voyage ahead and the impact we can make at Parkland and for Dallas County patients. I liken this journey to the NASA Voyager mission to the planets 30 years ago. The Voyager mission was highly improbable when it began, but it came to defy all expectations. We admired the Voyager mission because of its vision, its boldness, its creativity, its scientific excellence, and its humanity. PCCI aspires to be like that, to make that kind of difference at Parkland and around the world through the hard work and ingenuity of our staff. To help describe our vision, I'd like to show you a brief video about the PCCI.
So Voyager 1 launched in 1977. I was just 4 years old. The Voyager missions by NASA are really inspirational to me. It's probably the closest thing to magic that I've ever seen.
A few individuals that had an idea and inspiration.
No one had any idea how long it would last. They thought it might last a couple of years. And now, it's more than 30 years later. And now in 2012, they're 11 billion miles away from Earth. They've shattered whole libraries of scientific thought.
You can judge the whole effort by the number of scientific discoveries it makes a year and the number of previous theories that it renders obsolete.
I think in a small way, the PCCI has a similarly improbable mission, but with the same promise.
In the late summer of 1977, two unmanned spacecraft, Voyager 1 and 2, lifted off from Cape Canaveral atop Titan Centaur rockets.
I like to think in our own small way, the Parkland Center Foundation is like that Voyager mission. We're launching in 2012 out of a public hospital that has a great heritage.
It's an idea that's time to come, but it's also a leader who's time to come. We're inundated with data, in medicine in particular. And the idea with the center is, can we take all this data and make sense of it for the patient? And I presented the idea to Ron Anderson, and he said, let's make it happen, let's make it happen. Some of the people we met, like Neil Poe, numbers are really instrumental in helping him fashion his thinking. And so your timing sometimes isn't everything, but it's a whole lot.
I think no one really had any idea what they were getting into at the time.
We had a simple idea. Could we predict what would happen to a patient and when, using all the data we could get from the Parkland Electronic Laboratory?
I always kind of wondered about that. I thought he was kind of dreaming, but then things just started happening.
Tim is a background type of guy, but he's been essential and started with me, and we had this idea.
When I think back on it, it's really amazing that we've developed this far, because our intention was not to develop software or not to develop any kind of service line. It was, we were just trying to resolve a particular problem at Parkland.
The work that he was doing sounded really exciting for us, and started looking at some opportunities for how we might collaborate to bring the PIECES model and establish it in the Texas Health Resources.
This is how PIECES works. It essentially sits on top of a hospital electronic medical record. It takes data from the operating room, from the wards, from the outpatient clinics, and then it says, what's going to happen to this patient and when? A lot of what we do in medicine as doctors is try to predict the future. We want to know, what does this patient have? What will happen to them? Do they need to go to surgery? Do they need to just get medicine through insurance? And that's what we try to build in the PIECES. The spirit of what a physician does every day, right into the software code.
One single physician cannot absorb and calculate and make decisions with, terabytes of data. That's just not humanly possible. What's exciting about PCCI is that it's composed of people that are still involved in providing patient care. So they actually know what it's like to be using the tools that they're developing in the actual care of the patients at the bedside. And that's a very unique aspect of PCCI.
In some ways, I think that we started our work in the Parkland Center for Clinical Innovation on one disease, heart failure, on one condition, readmissions. And the approach that we're taking, which is to take all that information that's coming from those patients and applying it to understand predictions throughout their hospital stay and beyond, can be applied to all the disease conditions in medicine for all age groups.
We are actually predicting what is going to happen to a patient before it happens, and then actually preventing it from happening.
We tackle these really complex challenges in healthcare, but we tackle them head on, and we don't shy away from them.
The solutions what we are building in PCCI, the idea is we're taking all those things and indirectly helping the patients without their knowledge.
I think the work every day is thinking that PIECES may help some little kid somewhere that will never meet, and that drives us and motivates us every day.
It's cutting edge, it's novel, it's innovative, and this is what makes this work exciting.
It impacts healthcare across the nation, in fact, globally. And so that's why there's now interest from multiple health systems in the work at PCCI and bringing that work to their health systems.
We have an amazing group of staff. We have computer scientists, mathematicians, health services researchers, clinicians, and we're all focused on how we might collaborate together.
So I enjoy working with PCCI because they're a bunch of smart people.
The thing is that the motivation here isn't making money, it's helping people get better and improving people's lives. Because that's what, at the end of the day, medicine's all about.
I think we have some big differences from a typical for-profit technology company. At the end of the day, we are a national opera department, and we really care. And we build into this software and into our analytics the specific concerns for indigent patients and people who just don't have as much stuff and have as much resources. For anyone who loves Parkland and its mission, this has been a set of challenging years, but I'd rather be nowhere else because this is where we're needed.
Our long-term vision is for PIECES to be able to affect you personally. I think that PIECES has a potential national significance beyond its impact here regionally at Parkland and even in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. The problem that it tries to address is a universal one.
What's amazing about the Voyager is that it really kind of shows what we're best at, in terms of pushing new scientific discoveries to lead to unimaginable opportunities and approaches to even our understanding of the universe and how we can apply it in the future.
Years from now, we want our software and our work to be used around the world in ways that we haven't even yet imagined.
Thank you to Parkland, Department staff and management, Parkland Board of Managers, the Dallas County Commissioners in Dallas County. We will work our very hardest to achieve the promise and the vision we are laying before you today.
Let me, Dr. George, you kind of help me. Can anything good come out of that? I mean, Park. Thank you, Dr. George.
You still have that watermark that says taken photos.
Yeah, that's a couple right now. But anyway, thank you, Dr. For bringing some light. At the end of the day, our patients will be the beneficiaries. And I think this dovetails into what Parkland's mission is all about. But not only our patients, but our taxpayers. Because at the end of the day, and this is where the Affordable Care Act, some people said he doesn't mind calling it Obamacare now, but this is where, that's what he calls it. That's what he calls it, okay. But at the end of the day, this is where we're trying to go. It's not so much because the Affordable Care, Obamacare is not continuing to reward people for treating. It is to prevent them. It is trying to prevent what I call recidivist care that continuously goes on in the system. So I just really want to thank you. Thank you for
And I think that just following Commissioner Price, this is more, than only a change in what is going to be the delivery of care. This is, in my opinion, a discovery that will allow us to go to the next stage when it comes to delivering health services. We probably all remember when we saw the first, fax microwave, the first brick phone, and now we have this cell phone. This is what is going to change the way we deliver education, prevention, and health. When we can educate and prevent what is going to happen in the future, we have a tool that is starting right here. And I know that I will remember the first time I heard about PCCI, because this is the stepping stone like going to the space in medicine. And I am delighted that it's Portland and Dallas County the ones that are making it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great job. Great job. Great job. All right. Next we got our briefing session. Want to take us to the briefing session?
Well, Judge Commissioner. Are we confiscating that equipment? That equipment belongs to Dallas County? We haven't seen. That is space age equipment compared to Dallas County.
I will have facilities to move it.
Yeah, audio even.
Never seen anything like it. Our first item, Brian, is adjusting this. I'm going to just skip this. Tom will allow me to just move this a little bit to get the screen up and going for the next presentation. Our first item, Health and Human Services. Item 1B is quote-unquote informal agenda. 1C, quote-unquote informal agenda. 1D recommends approval of fiscal year 2012-2013 Department of State Health Services, H.W. Ryan White contract and amendment. I'll keep moving until we get this thing moving. I've got two presentations. Item 2, criminal justice, is also a presentation, so I'm going to move to item 3. Human Resources Civil Service recommends approval of the district attorney's appointment to the Sheriff's Department Civil Service Commission. Item 4, Sheriff's Department recommends approval of the Sheriff's Department submission of fiscal year 2014 Texas Auto Burglary and Theft Prevention Authority grant application. Item 5, Public Works recommends accepting the auction purchase agreement from Next Lot 4 LLC for the purchase of tax foreclosed property at 11430 Spence Road in Walt Springs, authorized sale by quitclaim deed, and authorized tax assessor collected to receive and disperse funds in accordance with the property tax code.
Mr. Mark, let me kind of get in under the Sheriff's Department deal from Mr. Brown. I want us to, the courts, to be able to get an inventory of the grants we apply for, the grants we are not successful with, and how we think that's going to impact the operation, primarily because I know Sheriff's Department yesterday in our sanitation meeting, we were not successful on a PREA grant. And at some point in time, we need to know, I mean, we're making all these applications, that's one thing. But if you didn't receive them, as you know, yesterday I challenged them to say, what does that now do to us with regards to budget? I think the court needs to see that, probably not just with that department, but with all our departments. We make all these applications, and if we receive them, fine, but if we don't, what happens?
We'll provide you a summary for the last 12 months of those applications that we've applied for, whether or not we received them, whether or not there were modifications to the application, because sometimes you get a receipt, but it's not exactly everything you asked for, and then those that we did get. I've already assigned staff to go work with the sheriff's office to try to understand what the impact will be. And I know that they've already set a meeting up for this week.
Okay, good.
What is the timeline as well?
PREA does in fact sometime in September.
September, yeah, PREA, no, that's
But
what.
we need to make sure we're on top of it and we're ahead of the game.
That's
You don't want to
4
get to
months.
the end and not have trainings in place.
But that wasn't the concern. The concern was that the application was for one amount. And then when I challenged him on that amount, it sounded like I was hearing 4 times
Sure.
that impact amount. So that gave me some pause. And so I want us to vet them and be able to see what that happens. And then, and like I said, that's not just not only talking about the sheriff, but I'm talking about all departments. See where they are. Okay.
This time I'll jump back up to item number 1, Health and Human Services, and ask Director Thompson to give us a West Nile virus update. Mr. Thompson.
Judge, Commissioner, I'll be real quick. I know you got a lot on the agenda. On the first slide, Ryan, if you don't mind, go to the next one. I wanted to bring this slide back up. It's important as the legislature is moving for closure. Is that Senate Bill 186 that State Senator John Corona, as well as House Bill 832, sponsored by State Representative Helen Giddings. We're hearing that there may be some pushback on this particular bill. So I just want to keep that as a reminder that citizens as well as elected officials, this bill is going to be a cornerstone in terms of addressing municipalities' abilities to go on property and mitigate swimming pools and abandoned property. So I'm hearing that there may be some pushback, and I think this is probably, of all the bills that we've sponsored since I've been at HHS, this is probably one of the most critical bills that we're bringing forward, and we really want to thank Senator Corona as well as State Representative Helen Giddings for bringing this bill forward.
But here in the briefing, it was sailing through, and we were even looking at being able to acquire the votes necessary to institute almost immediately. Exactly, merge count, but what has happened?
I think we get, on Friday, we get more from Craig, but he had called me and said there was been some pushback. Just on the record, I'll just say there's been some pushback.
Well, you know, since we are on the record, can you let us, if you want to tell us right now, so our citizens can call that person, I'll certainly be calling. Who are the senators who are opposed to us treating them?
Well, I think the issue on the table is basically property rights, and so that's a concern. I don't have a list of representatives or senators.
But property rights over and above public safety?
I agree. It's common sense.
Yeah, and it's not as though we're going in there to make, acquisition, and it's not as though we're talking about liability. We're talking about a public health nuisance and potentially public hazard.
Well, again, Craig called me and said there is some rumbling regarding these bills, and so I wanted to bring it forward. We get more detail on Friday from him. I don't know if he'll be here Friday, but we'll get more detail. But I think I wanted to make sure we remind the public that one of the issues we faced, not only last year, but since 2006, was these abandoned properties with swimming pools, abandoned properties that have properties that look trashed out, and they are breeding grounds for mosquitoes. So this bill gives us that quick turnaround notification that we're able to immediately go on the property and address the breeding of those mosquitoes and eliminate that. So this is a good bill.
Great job, Zach, and please give us, as you find out more about what the pushback is, and I'll make some comments too, I'd like to know who that is, and I'd like to let the public know that is, because I think the public has a desire to be protected against mosquito-borne illness, and I think that's going to outweigh the property rights of people who abandon their property and leave their swimming pools as breeding grounds for mosquitoes.
Most of these properties are foreclosed properties. Most of the properties we're talking about are abandoned properties. So this bill is not earmarked for us as homeowners who are taking care of properties. These are abandoned properties or foreclosed properties that we're having problems. So I think that's where maybe the misinformation on property rights. So I'll go to the next slide right
Zach, you sent down to Craig those emails that you've gotten from citizens about different locations.
Right. And I'll send I get them almost weekly. And I'll forward to y'all. I'll send them all the ones I just
To all the different staffs from all the different municipalities.
Right. They're coming from all over Dallas County, where citizens are emailing me with photos and complaints, and I forward it over. You can see my response to the city to act on those immediately.
And everybody has been working with us.
All the municipalities, we can't say enough about the municipalities. That's one that kind of goes into the next slide. Commissioner Price will be sending out a letter, just brought it this morning, where we'll get the actual appropriations, official appropriations that Commissioner Daniels had asked for in one of my slides previously. Mr. Price will be sending out a letter to get the official appropriation for all those various cities, and so we can have it for the record. The slide I showed you was an estimated number 2 weeks ago, but this letter will kind of make it official in terms of what those cities appropriations are. So all cities have put money forward to enhance the mosquito program, and so this letter that Commissioner Price has sent out will just kind of confirm that amount. Also, each week I'm going to try to bring up quickly the CDC report. I know that that's probably the nightly reading for me, maybe not for other people. But the concept is in that CDC report, it talked about surveillance of mosquitoes, vector abundance. As you can see, we've increased the number of traps Dallas County-wide And one thing can be pointed to is the fact that we got 76 traps locations that are collected throughout Dallas County. That's 11 partnering communities that have additional traps. This is threefold compared to what the number of traps we had last year. So we are following the CDC recommendation that we increase the number of traps throughout Dallas County. The next slide is an example. I wanted to pencil a number about the city of Richardson. The fact that everyone started their trapping early. We started a month early in April, putting our traps out. I want to remind you that the state of Texas or the state health department is not testing until May 1. They have reversed that based on what happened here in terms of their testing. So they're going to start testing early for mosquitoes. We had asked for that. They saw the early indicators that happened in the city of Richardson. And I want to commend the city of Richardson, and they're part of our planning process of our Dallas County Public Health Advisory Committee. And that was our discussion item, and start our mosquito trapping early.
And their appropriation has increased significantly.
That's right. I got a quick slide here just showing you samples. You can see the city of Dallas did submit some samples. BDCI is our contractor submitting samples. So we're getting samples throughout Dallas County. Again, other than the samples that were received at City of Richardson, all the samples that we received to date in terms of mosquito traps have been negative. And so that's a good sign. Again, I will caution that Northeast Quadrant was our hotbed last year, and that dovetails right up into the City of Richardson as well. So having that early indicator was key. Also, in terms of our vendor update, you can see again the BDCI provided traps. All of them were negative in terms of samples. Map Vision, we're still focused on public viewing. Our go-live date is still on target for June 3rd. Again, on the insecticide resistance testing, we're still dealing with cool weather mosquitoes. We don't have the hot summer mosquitoes, so we're going to wait to do the egg collection for the resistance testing. Again, practicing the 3Ds. We got 3Ds, 4Ds. Just practice all Ds and to make sure that you're protecting yourself. So it depends on what PR campaign is going on. You'll see a number of Ds, but these are the ones that we deal with. And I think that
Council, this deed would like to be informed every day too, because Northeast Dallas County is an area that I have a particular interest in, and so please share your nightly reading with me if you would. Thank you very much.
Yes, well, all the meetings I do is every week in terms of updates. Everybody gets the updates. Yeah.
It's my neighborhood. It's my creativity.
Right, I got you. I might have missed it. That everyone gets the updates. Right, immediately.
Yeah, I think what she's asking for is, and as I've asked for too, just as information comes out on this, please forward it to all members of the court in real time.
Right, and that's what I want to point out. The real time was when the city of Richardson notified Dallas County, I forwarded it to
and
y'all, and
you've
all
been
the
doing
mosquito
that.
traps, as I pointed out, you get it as soon as I get it. So that's real. You can't get any more real time than what you get right now.
Very much.
Yeah.
And I want to congratulate your staff, Mr. Thompson. You have done a fantastic job with all of them, communicating with us. I know that every single time I have questions, your staff has been very calm with you, and the members of Commissioner Price Task Force, to respond. So I really appreciate it.
Right. There's a technical piece in this that we're collecting the trap. We don't get the trap information until late Friday, almost Monday morning. So I just have to bear with us on that. This is the fastest turnaround I've seen in 17 years in the information we're getting right now.
You know what, that's the next point.
So maybe next year we'll have that PowerPoint that Department has.
We want to go to the next level.
Item 2, approval of justice judgments supporting Dallas area. Permit supporting housing plan developed by Metro Dallas Homeless Alliance. Mr. Strucker has a short presentation.
First, two apologies to the court. The briefing on this was only 2.5 pages, and I would expect at least 9 to 10, and I apologize for that. And then we're a little low tech here, but we'll try to do the best we can. We want to talk today about asking for the court to endorse a plan for permanent supportive housing. We've talked so much about our needs of behavioral health services, and a critical component of that is stable housing. We'll show you how all the research as well as our local experience shows as more people are stable in housing, less money is spent on high levels of care and less cycle through the jail. This plan has been developed over the past several months, and I do want to thank Dr. Garcia for her leadership. She's a member of the Greater Dallas Policy Alliance that has worked on this along with Councilmember Allen, retired Judge Cruzeau that we all know, Mary Ann Russ from the Housing Department, and George Ellis from the Metro Dallas Housing Alliance Board. I need to say just real quickly, Mary Ann Russ at Dallas Housing Authority has been a wonderful partner. She's really shown leadership on this throughout. MDHA, Metro Dallas Homeless Alliance, is a local nonprofit that has been designated by the City Council as the regional authority on homelessness. MDHA manages the annual continuum of care housing program for HUD, which pours about $50 million into housing. Mike Fianza, CEO. Did Mike have to go?
Yeah.
I got it. Sorry. Okay. Brian, if we go to the next page, let's kind of talk about the plan, and we'll go through this quickly. Obviously, when we talk about someone who's chronically homeless, it's a disability and homeless for more than a year.
That's a definition by HUD.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That is a HUD definition for that. Obviously, behavioral health issues makes housing more of a challenge for folks. And we've clearly shown that folks with mental illness and substance abuse needs who have protracted homelessness have a much greater cost with the system, both through behavioral health care and criminal justice. And this, I think, shows very nicely. The upper line shows the increase in the number of permanent supportive housing units, and then the declining line shows the number of chronic homeless through their point-in-time counts. So we show that as we get more housing, we have less chronically homeless folks. All right, here's what we want to accomplish with the plan. That people who are homeless and disabled are placed into permanent housing within a year. That we get access to permanent supported housing with the support services for bridge guests and other disabled individuals. And our goal is that we can implement this plan and essentially end chronic homelessness in Dallas by 2016.
You're talking apartments, though, correct? You're going to increase the number of apartments.
That is the number of apartments. It is the number of apartments. And we'll talk strategy here in a minute. But what we want to do is, over this course, get 1,800 more units. We want to limit the new disabled to less than 200 a year. We've got to find a way not to let more progress to that point of becoming chronically homeless. We want to set a goal of if you come into the system, you're disabled, we can get you into permanent housing within a year. First strategy is to increase the number of housing units. We looked at Dallas Housing Authority for 1,200 units over this time. This would be a combination of vouchers and units in their own properties. We looked at the Veterans Administration, who has more and more access to housing programs for 400, and then to utilize the continuum of care for 200 additional apartments. What we're asking for...
Before you go any further,
yes, sir.
I understand the commitment from DHA. When you get to the voucher program, is there receptivity in the community with regards to that program, which is units, and what percentage of those additional units may be vouchers versus inventory that's already in DHA?
Here, we're not at the point of being able to say this many will be new vouchers and this many will be utilizing existing inventory in DHA. That'll be developed as we move forward. But now the vouchers do present an issue, Commissioner, because you then get into the community. Everybody supports and understands permanent supportive housing, and they need to have that. But it didn't work too close to me.
And that's the reason I'm going down. But I still think that you guys, Mike, you come back in, you recognize it. I still want you've got to have some idea in terms of what inventory is available now, and versus what winds up in voucher territory.
There's two ways that those 1,200 units will take place from the housing authorities. And one is in existing DHA facilities. So that's one example. And this year, there's about 235 units that are connected to providers with emergency solution grant money for case management that are being developed for people with disabilities that are homeless, the DHA facilities. Over the next 3 years, the expectation is that there will be the use of project-based vouchers, but the way those vouchers are generated within the context of a homeless priority in the housing authority now is that there's about 100 turnovers in vouchers every couple months. So it's actually using vouchers that are turned over to group together in projects. So it's just, it's moving people with disabilities who are homeless into project-based vouchers simply entails the use of vouchers that have turned over in a housing authority.
Mike, I appreciate your work on this, but I had several questions. I emailed this to Ron. Let me just ask you, where is the plan? You're asking us to endorse a plan that no one's seen, that this court hasn't. The behavioral health has seen, but it wasn't out there. Where is the plan? When will we get it?
This is the overview of the plan.
The actual plan document, like the thing that you want us to endorse.
And what will, it's a, I don't know if you got to the, this is what this
applying a portion of the.
Pardon?
It's applying the portion of the HUD emergency solutions grant.
This is maybe I can just try to quickly state what the plan, what this PowerPoint results in. It's
what would be good is if we could get the written document so that we and our staffs could read it. You know, it's not a criticism, it's just we're used to getting the document.
I understand what you're asking, Judge, that really we need to have, 3 or 4 pages. This is the plan, and it's titled plan, and it lays it out clearly. And what we will do before we bring this to court order is take this information, put it into that document, and get it back out.
Okay, and then who is MDHA the grant recipient, except for these emergency solutions grant? Are you the legal grant recipient for the COCs? The continuity of care grant money?
Right.
Is that the city of Dallas? Is that the county of Dallas? Is it you?
The recipients of the grant are 40 continuum of care HUD grants for 47 different providers, and MDHA is the designated lead organization for the continuum of care. And so we collect data, analyze it, we work with them to submit. It's about $15 million worth of grants each year. That money doesn't come to MDHA, we're a facilitator.
So you're a HUD, and HUD names you the lead.
So we're a nonprofit that's designated by HUD to be the lead for the continuum of care. And that funds about 800 units of permanent supported housing that have been developed over the year, child care for homeless children, transitional housing for domestic violence victims. Yes.
And so currently, our emergency solutions grant go to Health and Human Services. If some, or go through Health and Human Services. If those, and Ron's shaking his head, or is that incorrect?
Well, no, I think that actually Rick, his shop does the current ESG.
I'm sorry, Rick does.
It's a fairly small amount that we have.
It's about 150.
To a couple of nonprofits.
Okay. And so you would essentially want to do the same thing, route that to nonprofits, but through this holistic approach?
Yes, you're already doing that. So there's several ways that building services into these housing units. And the real power of this was to get something constructive that would be integrated across local government. So City of Dallas, they receive now about 1.3 million of emergency solution grants. This year they committed about 400,000 towards case management and permanent supported housing, which is funding the services for 235 units that are being developed now. For the county, your emergency solution grant portion is smaller, it's around 150. You've historically done a good thing. You have funded services for kids aging out of foster care, which in a high percentage of of those kids without that kind of intervention in housing with supports become chronically homeless. It's about 35%. So really the point of the plan, and it says MDHA, but really we facilitated this. It's a community plan. The only plan that existed in the past for permanent supported housing was a City of Dallas plan that targets 700 units over 5 years. Because of the Housing Authority and a creative development, we've surpassed that in a couple years. So the trick is to develop enough capacity, and we're projecting 1,800 units with enough success in performance, which right now approximately 2,000 permanent supported housing units are produce housing stability at a 6-month mark that really surpasses the high benchmark for housing stability. And then also what was really important, and appreciate the work of Dr. Garcia, Mr. Stretcher with North Star, and the sanction of Commissioner Price, the VHLT, was to, for the first time, have North Star pay attention to housing stability data. We've been working on that a year and a half, and Ron and I just received the first report that looked at projected number of homeless in the system, number of people at imminent risk, and the North Star board approved this plan with the goal for North Star that no more than 200 new homeless cases generated in caseload each year. And so if you take, all that information together, it puts us at the place 3-4 years from now where we would virtually eliminate chronic homelessness. And what eliminating chronic homelessness means is that a person with a disabling condition is not homeless more than a year. And so it's cutting down the length of time someone's homeless. It's moving them into housing that is permanent with support services attached. So, and the idea is that plan is owned by North Star, Dallas County, because of several contributions you made. The City of Dallas, Veterans Administration, Parkland plays a significant role through its homes program and aftercare medical services for people who are in permanent supported housing. So
we look forward to getting the rest of the information on that so that we can read it and get the full details. Thank you very much for all the coming together efforts. I know that it's taken a lot of time and effort.
And so the last two organizations to sign on are Dallas County and the City of Dallas. We'll have a briefing with the City of Dallas, the second briefing in May.
This is a briefing. We need to see the plan before we sign on to it. But you're talking about something we talked about, and it's great. And as you know, I personally support what you're doing. I believe this is a great thing, and it's a great step. All of these ideas that you're talking about are great. But if there's a document that's been voted on by the Planning Council or any other thing in writing, of course, we just need a copy of that to read before we go.
And it's really what's been voted on is a draft of this PowerPoint that overviews the plan.
They're just subscribing to the parking board.
I have one.
Go ahead, Commissioner, because I don't want to.
Just one question about the emergency solutions grant. Ryan, that's separate from the emergency shelter grant.
Yes.
Okay, totally separate. And so our amount is about $140,000 on that. What is our emergency solutions grant?
They're one and the same now. They changed the name 2 years ago, but they still call it ESG, and it's incredibly confusing.
So it is the same thing
It
as
is
the
the same
emergency
thing.
shelter?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to see how the existing programs are going to be impacted from, if we're going to be taking dollars from those programs to get to this, then I need to see how that's impacted on that.
And really, what the plan asks you to do is continue what you've already been doing. There's some parameters around the emergency shelter grant. And one of the priorities is rapid rehousing, which provides case management for homeless people. And you have been using money that way in the past and this year.
New Beginnings has got a contract, it's not even using the ESG dollars anymore.
Right.
So
But-
the ESG dollars, I think we were using to offset some of our costs at the bridge for our contribution. And even that has now been taken away.
Okay, and I'm
We'll bring you back to the history of our use.
yeah, because the kids aging out of foster care,
We've got a variety of things. we're
right,
looking at.
and some days we put in a lot, sometimes we haven't.
That would be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your work.
Thank you. And I just want to close by saying that I want to thank Mike Piazza and of course Ron Stretcher as well as George Ellis, for all the work with the Homeless Alliance, our chair, Jerry Allen, Josh Crusoe, and Marian Ross. We started by bringing everybody together, colleagues for the last 10 years, actually 15, if I remember correctly. We've been trying to increase the number of permanent supported housing. One of the things everybody has been doing, a little bit here, a little bit there, the idea was to bring all the different stages of elected officials together. So we can actually create a plan that will give us another 1,800 units with case management, with medication, that will help us all. City of Dallas, Dallas County, HUD, the Housing Authority, to help us all to come together, work together, and support each other together. Not only that, I also want to thank the City of Dallas. I was telling Commissioner Price, this is something that has been worked since my former colleague, Leo Cheney, was fighting for this money to come to the City of Dallas to start working on homelessness. So it's been a long road, but if I ever felt like we're getting there, it's now. We need the North Texas Behavioral Health Authority as well as the behavioral leadership team under Commissioner Price have come together and say, okay, it's time to all put our resources together, have a common goal. At the end of the day, we are cross paths when it comes to housing. You're talking about homeless, you're talking about mental, you're talking about prostitution, no matter what you talk about, when we all cross paths, it's in supporting housing. And this will give us an opportunity to increase homelessness, hopefully end it, as it was our goal for the last 10 years. So, this is a work where we're all together. Now, the part of Dallas County, George Collins, you will see it, because pretty much, if I understand correctly, it's the same that we've been investing. The North Texas Behavioral Health Authority has been doing the management. They will continue to do that. Commissioner Price will continue to do with his leadership team all the involvement of all the different services and medication. The Housing Authority will continue to do some of the vouchers. So nothing really is changing other than bringing us all together with a common goal. And that's what this is about. And this is the first step. We talk about actually today, PCCI, then West Nile virus, and this is the next stage when we come to talk about ending homelessness and permanent supported housing in a way that we have never done it. And that's why sometimes we get so much push from neighborhood associations. Because, they used to feel that you're just pushing it into the neighborhoods without the supporting management. Guys, we're doing something different. It's the next level when we come to supporting housing. And that's why I'm so excited. And it wouldn't happen without many people working together. And that's all these entities that we finally put together and said, we're going to do this. And the only thing we wanted by bringing it today to you all is that you're aware, because it's going to go to all the different entities. This is just the first step. And if everything goes according to plan, we will have 1,800 new units to start in the homes. Did I get kind of correct? Next stage.
Item 6 is your budget. 6A, Conference Travel Training Request. 6B, recommend approval of public defense grant submission to the Texas Indigent Defense Commission. I have one bring up, which is Lieutenant Jerry Kitchen traveled to Austin to testify on HB 3812 on 416.
Not a problem.
Your last item is your capital budget.
And before we go there, let me get to the two things. I'm gonna have a problem on the 4A, those sinks over in Henry Way. When do they become appurtenances as opposed to reimbursement? Once you put them in and you use them, all of a sudden, we have something in the contract that says that they get reimbursed for that. I'm wondering.
Commissioner, hold on just a second. This is on the miscellaneous briefing.
Look,
Okay, for heavyweight. Commissioner, actually,
Those are mixed things, right?
they were, he actually, the prior vendor purchased the sinks.
Okay.
And we were required to have sinks. We went and got pricing to put new sinks in because they were not, the contract did not say that they were ours after they were placed.
Well, maybe you try to take them out, and ask him not to take them out.
Well, I see what he's saying. See, if I remember a building.
That's right. What
I put,
And you attach.
I attach something.
Exactly.
Let's say I put a new, I pull out the light box and I put in a new dimmer switch. Do I get to take that with me when my lease is up?
I would state this is more like a freestanding piece of equipment than it is a fixture. I can provide you some pictures to show you. We did get pricing to replace them, and the pricing that was offered by the vendor was cheaper than our pricing to purchase them.
Okay, so we're back. It makes it look like we're
No, sir, I'm sorry, we're purchasing them. They are
purchasing. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
And we did look at, but we're purchasing them from the prior
That's
vendor.
fine.
After comparing prices, I'm trying to get you.
I don't have a problem with that. That's not the way I've written this one too. So, I'm okay. And I want to say to Ms. Richardson, look like you got your team, you got your A team here, Kobe and the group. I just want to say thank you to the mental health team. I mean, just one of the best, not only in the county, in this region and in the state.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. We just approved yesterday in civil service, the new case management. Speaking of case management lead, and an important part, not only in the public defender's office, but also on the VA side of the aisle. But the number of cases that you guys do is just incredible, and just thank you for your work. I know people talk about jobs and all, but at the end of the day, you perform and you perform greatly. So I just want to say thank you.
And I always wanted to mention that, the Public Defender's Office has submitting a grant application for an immigration criminal law program. Knowing how many cases we get to the Public Defender's Office, I think it was about time, and it looks good. I look forward to working with you to be sure that this is addressed within your office. Thank you.
Anything you want to say, Mr. Richardson? Okay.
I would just like to say thank you to the Commissioners Court, to Judge Jenkins, to everyone.
I know you want to be talking.
I have a bit of a call, but I want to thank everyone involved. I listened to a lot of the presentations today, whether it's Parkland, whether it's HHS, whether it's the housing issue. They're all interrelated. And so working together with all these different departments, I think we can make a change in Dallas County. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for your office and all the work that you put into the care for health within this county.
Thank you.
And I want her brother to understand that she now understands how dangerous the job is, because when you guys were gone, she went out to do the job, and did you have a broken arm?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the clients didn't respond to her like they responded to you. And as a result, she got a chance to see the value of what you do. So.
And we appreciate Ryan going out because he didn't have to do that. And we got a chance to
We also, in the information briefing, since we're going through that, we have a consolidation of Grand Prairie and Irving tax branches. I think Mr. Ames is here, and I just want to put on the record that, you know, it's not only increasing security, it's also maintaining a mission of excellence that his office has done for many years, and that it will be one of the biggest. It will be 15 minutes away from all the other locations that are being consolidated. So this will become the largest branch, the one in Herring, for the tax office. We have everything in a few days when we open the new Grand Prairie Courthouse, and I want to thank him for showing me how we're going to have one of the best services in the West Side of Johnstown. Thank you, Mr. Ames. Anything you want to add?
It is going to be the newest, biggest branch. The commissioners are welcome to start bidding for their areas for the next newest and biggest one that they find.
I knew you were going to say it.
Thank you, Dr. Grossi, for all your support in this week.
Thank you, Mr. Ames.
Ladies and gentlemen, your budget briefing.
Good morning, gentlemen. This is the capital briefing that Denver presented a few different times in writing. This is the first time I'll actually put it in there. I did modify it fairly substantially from last week based on the quick dialogue that we had in Commissioner's Court after executive session. Just wanted to walk you through quickly that, you know, we went to a pay-as-you-go concept, FY 2000. The whole concept was to take the 4.5 cents that were dedicated to debt service and make sure that those funds were, as debt service was paid off, and became available for cash funding. The whole premise was that we would be doing buildings, transportation, and open space from that fund. You can see from the slide that in FY 2000, we had about $357 million in outstanding obligations. By 2013, we're down to $121 million. And you can see that the tax rate is switching as it was supposed to, and you're generating about $45 million for the Major Capital Development Fund from where it was at about $10 million in 2000.
You know, we're always talking about making a submission to County Magazine. Why don't you submit that? Because I remember when we went that way, everyone in the state, my colleagues, everybody said, you know, y'all have lost your mind in Dallas County. And this is done, and we caught a lot of hell about that. But this is true to the bottom line. I think the key is the $357 million worth of obligations. Ryan just kind of gave those, but we're down to $121 million. And what he does not say is that if you look at the per capita, the debt per capita, in terms of our constituents, it is, I mean, that's in the
$73 per capita.
Per capita.
That's in the state, and maybe
Take
less than the
the
nation.
large urban counties, the lowest is $270. The highest is, I think, $1,700.
And so, you know, I'm, in terms of that, Mark, I think in terms of management, people miss that. And I just want to applaud this court for really understanding overall, because at the end of the day,
And it's not just the outstanding obligations there. I mean, I could have built in here for the interest savings. I could have shown you what was interest payments of that the $357 million versus the interest on the $121 million. And that interest is all being available now to go to additional projects.
But we put in a little bit north of $400 million to leverage $1.2 billion in transportation projects, in addition to $190 million on buildings. It would have cost us, just to support that, would have been an additional 1.7 cents on the tax rate, which we don't have.
We don't have exactly. You know, kind of where we're going with that, the whole plan is that we'll be debt-free in 2021, at which, you know, this is the first time I wrote it. I've talked to you individually about it, but we'll skip 1 year to ensure that we have built the cash flow to make sure we have adequate cash, because while we have obligations out there, we don't always have all the cash available for all the obligations. So we need to make sure we have constant availability of funds so that we don't delay any of the projects that we've made commitments with our partners.
And our public works director signs on to that, right?
You too, Ms. Blair.
She and I work very closely
So I
looking at
want
cash
to,
flow.
she can come in and close the door and get wrong.
We approve of that year, yes.
Well, I think you've also discussed that with the cities.
Yeah.
So everybody's
Also, they're.
Yeah, the cities are fine, and Alberta and I talk constantly about what is the cash flow needs versus what is the commitments of the obligations. And I've repeatedly told you, and I've repeatedly told her, as long as we continue to do it with our commitments to the individual cities, there's always a delay of those projects. It's as long as we don't ever decide we're gonna go spend $400 million on one project, and go away from the concept that we've been doing, then suddenly I've got a problem because I don't have $400 million sitting there.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, I don't believe this court is going that direction, but as I said, that's my only major concern as it relates to the concept of having commitments that exceed your cash available. I think you'll find that a lot of the projects are delayed because the cities are doing the same thing. They've got commitments, but they don't have the cash available, and so they're waiting for their cash to become available.
And this program has benefited the cities by having that flexibility.
Yes.
Unlike a bond program where you're locked into a specific project, the city can come in and say, you know, I don't want to do that now, this is the higher priority.
Not only that, but if you looked at our last bond program, it was supposed to be a 5-year program, and we sold those debt issuances over 15 years. What also happens is you're selling it, and then you're paying interest on it, and then if you invest it, you end up with the wrong side, and you end up sending money back to the feds on an arbitrage. So once again, you have another disadvantage of selling the debt and not being able to use it in a timely manner. Right now, we're using $40 million as our commitments that we're allowing the cities to say right now. Obviously, that's why we're going to skip a year, because that exceeds the actual cash available because of the deep downturn in the economy. 2022, we're projecting about $92 to $100 million in tax revenue. Something that Alberta and I did talk about is to keep in mind, while it's $100 million, in theory, that's $48 million for transportation, $48 million for buildings, and $4 million for open space. Obviously, if you don't need all the 48 for buildings, you would have the ability to push some of that money into transportation. So I mean, the whole concept is the flexibility internally to the fund as well, to make sure that you have ultimately have to do what we need to do. Talk briefly about the policy. It does allow tax notes. We've issued the last one in 2011. At that point in time, it was for the jail MedMod, which we're currently building. We issued about $45 million, and we also had a refunding opportunity. We've talked about this already, but we're talking about, once again, having a refunding opportunity and then leveraging that cost that we'll have for the refunding and the savings that we'll have there to issue $40 million in new money.
And Ryan, I just want to point out on the recertification of the jail, and look at what Dallas County put into that. And I know the sheriff's here, Commissioner Price. $192 million without a significant increase in the tax revenue.
Correct.
Over that period of time. So that's pretty substantial.
We were able to do a lot of things, and we continue to do a lot of things. You just saw $1.9 million go to the North Tower security controls last week. You're going to see a court order for $2 million to put in some new shower stalls in the South Tower coming up. You've got a variety of different projects that continue to have to be done in the jail. Not to mention the energy improvements, which we'll dive into at the next slide. What we're recommending on that $40 million in new money is that it all go towards the energy conservation projects that we kicked off. We've already entered into contracts to $21 million, and there's about $17.7 million of additional work that we're holding off, waiting for the funds to become available. In addition, we're still doing 1 or 2 more phases of the project, which we anticipate at least $1 million to $4 million of additional dollars. Wanted to show you kind of where that $40 million it probably will end up being. You're going to see about $12 million in the jail, about $3.5 million in community services. Henry Wade had about $3 million. Swift was $1.8. Frank Crowley, $3.7 million. Outlying buildings, $3.4 million. Cookchill, $500,000, and $11 million in the George Allen building. There was a lot of that stuff that the employees are seeing has to do with lights and motion sensors and new low flush toilets and new low water faucets. What they're not seeing is in the basement of the buildings the tremendous upgrade in what we're doing. We're computerizing all of our boilers, we're computerizing our air handlers, we're replacing those in the George Allen. You're doing a variety of things. which are maintenance needs that we needed to get done and had been delaying on. So this is allowing us to not only do it as part of the maintenance needs, but it also allows us to do it to lower our utility costs, our water footprint, and those things, which ultimately will have a savings back to the Dallas County. Everything that we're doing there has a payback within 10 years. So every time we come forward with those projects, that's been one of my things, to make sure that it has a 10-year payback. Since the dollars are being paid out of the 4.5 cents, and then the debt service will be out of that 4.5 cents, my recommendation will be that we'll move the utility payment along with the proper property tax to the major capital fund going forward in 2014. That'll allow, as the utility costs go down, which is the savings that justifies why you're doing the $40 million, the savings will occur at the same place where the costs are. So ultimately, over the 10-year period, that $40 million will be paid back to the major capital fund and be available to do additional building, transportation, and open space projects.
At the same amount.
I'm going to set the tax rate swap at this year's utility payment cost.
The $19 million.
It's going to be about $12, $13 million. But it's going to be at what we're paying this year prior to the utility enhancements. And then as those enhancements, and we got a guarantee on those, as that utility payment goes down, that money will then be available to think of it as a repayment to the major capital fund.
Is there a formula in the vendor that guaranteed that amount?
There's a guarantee on that, yes.
I know there's a guarantee, but is there a formula that they're using the same base that we are on the utilities?
Yes, everything is based on
just
certified bases, and then obviously as you add buildings on, you could have additional costs. If your utility costs change, obviously you could have additional costs. So there are things that could cause it to be where it's not a dollar for dollar savings, but ultimately what I would suggest is that you would ultimately leave the utility payments in there forever, or you can swap it back out, depending on how you want to do it. But I can do an internal costing to make sure that we get where the payback ultimately is.
That's what I'm getting to, is how are you going to keep us honest?
You want, I'm calling my Snyder.
He can explain that, but I mean, their guarantee is based on a baseline. There are things that can change that aren't the baseline utility usage. It has to do with other things that we're doing.
Judge, Commissioners, Greg Hicks, Schneider Electric. Yes, there is a program where we monitor and verify the savings are there. We have a guarantee in the contract that allows us to write you a check for the savings of materials. So there's definitely a guarantee to that.
I knew that. And this is what you're using as your baseline. Ryan's talking about using the previous 12 months.
I think it's less of a Schneider Electric issue. It's more of an internal accounting that what you're going to want me to do is show you what we're paying for the $40 million plus the debt service on that $40 million minus what the actual utility savings is, so that ultimately you can see where that you do get to the break even.
Yeah, and we got that.
That's just internal.
Right, I got that, but the guarantee, before.
The guarantee is there that we'll get there. But as I said, we internally believe I have two things. The guarantee I'm very comfortable with. They've put their reputation on that, and we will get there. But if we let's say we go build a new jail, our utility costs are going to go up, and it has nothing to do with the guarantee.
Exactly.
And so there's another one that we need to build in there to make sure that if we have increased costs that have to do with increased square footage, that ultimately the major capital fund does break even. And that's what I believe Commissioner Cantrell wants to ensure.
But only because what we saw with the Major Technology Fund, I want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, that's different because we projected out with regards to buildings and growth and put analogy. I got it.
But we have done this before, putting utilities payment, which is operations, into capital program budget.
We've moved public works into the major capital fund, which is an ongoing similar concept, but we've never moved the utility
But we're going to do it now.
We're gonna do it now, and the main reason is because you're gonna pay a debt service on the $40 million, and that debt service is coming out of the 4.5 cents.
Right.
So in order to make that 4.5 cents whole, I need to add the money back in to cover the utility costs, and then the savings coming off the utility costs over a period of 10 years, maybe plus, you'll end up the payment back.
Utilities becomes capital.
Maybe a monthly accounting in our briefing book.
I think we can add it to the information section like we do the transfers.
That's great.
Well, that sounds fantastic, but I'm going to be very clear, about my position. I mean, and thank you, Mr. Brown, you and your Charles, everybody has been fantastic to work with. I did send an email that all my colleagues are praised about. My concern is we have 79 priority 1 projects. Priority 1 means can be dangerous, and when we have that many, and we only addressing a few on the first year, I feel good that in 3 years, we might address them all. But I will feel better if we can address more of those projects in the first year. And if our accounting is as good and everything is as strong as you say, and I don't know if our financial advisor is here. What's his name? Mr.
Bowles.
Mr. Bowles, sorry, I can't see that. But I mean, one of the things that I would like us to consider, and I understand that it's marked in our briefing, and we're going to have a timeline, because I would love to have a timeline, and Mr. Brown responded that he will have it ready with approximately time, frames where we will do this. And I would like to know, if it will take another 20 million, we can do the same thing, accelerating more priority 1 projects into the first 2 years rather than to wait 3. Or in the best circumstances, 4 or 5.
It's a logistic, it's a...
Yeah, Commissioner, I believe it's not a financial question.
It's not.
That is a capacity question.
And the capacity, we have it.
No, that's what I'm trying to explain. We do not have it, we cannot.
Financial capacity, I guarantee you, we could fund more in the first year. We don't have the facilities capacity, the project management capacity.
I understand that, but I mean,
capacity.
But we have, people that supervise the Grand Prairie Support House on other projects. We can include that as part of the cost and do it faster, right?
And clearly, as those projects get completed, that staff is already scheduled to move on to the new projects.
Well, I would like to see the timeline.
And that's what we're
that
talking
will make, in my mind, it will show me if it's possible or not.
Well, just...
We're planning in the ideal world that, as we complete projects, we will move to other ones. But we still have over 50 priority 1s that have been kept in priority 1 for years in Dallas County.
But even before you get to priority 1 projects, just to sustain where we are with regards to regulatory agencies and all, logistically, we don't have staff. We would have to add at least 50% to our staff.
And they wouldn't have a knowledge base as much as you.
Exactly.
But then we're planning. And planning is planning not only economically, but also planning for staff and for capacity. So if we are planning, and that is what we're talking about right now, then we ought to be planning also for that type of capacity.
Absolutely.
And it is not beyond the realm of what our activity is in planning.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's exactly right. We can look at those options and see if we can do it. It doesn't have to
If
be
we have
facility.
if we have that ability, I'm comfortable saying that we will have the financial wherewithal to move forward those projects if the capacity is there for the facilities to do what they need to do, and for the sheriff to be able to work around it, because departmental impacts are as well. You can only do so many things and impact it so many ways. It's for you.
But I think also, Commissioner, what Dr. Garcia is saying, if we have a priority 1 item that is critical, that needs to get done, whether we have the capacity or not, we need to find a way to get it done.
There
I think that's what
Put
she's
it on the
saying.
agenda and you plan for it.
Exactly, because there are some things that are just life and safety issues that we cannot wait on. I think that's what she's saying. Those
That's
79
exactly what
some of
she's
those
saying.
things just cannot wait.
Right. Groups are calling in.
Right, and I think, we'll plan out for 3 years, but in that 3 years, if something happens and the building something needs to get addressed, this court has to figure out a way to get that addressed.
Exactly, and I would like to know how I can address that. I understand my facilities department will not be able to approach it, they will be overstretched. How can I do it in a different way? And still do them in 2 years? You know, and if the capacity is not an issue, it should not be a problem.
And I support that. She keeps saying 2 years. And the problem,
3 years
all
or
3,
whatever it is.
whatever.
You know, I mean, the reality, Commissioner, is says people, when you have priority ones, that many of your projects, you know, the firm maintenance has been an issue.
The jail alone, he just talked about $190 million. Do you realize that we have tied facilities up for the next year plus just trying to maintain that certification? That's just, facilities is tied just in that one facility.
A decision made 2 years ago, 3 years ago, is having an impact in 2013-14. And that's exactly why we're talking about, if we're looking at 14-15, we are making decisions at this moment in anticipation
To not be tied up, you know, in 3 years, with more buildings having on priority one.
Anyway, the facility.
Gives a timeline, that all.
Exactly. There we go.
And we're going to provide you a timeline, a specific schedule.
you know.
Obviously, it's a living document because things will change, because things will have to be.
That's all I'm saying.
And we can do that.
Well, I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, my point, and I want it on the record, my point is safety. You know, when I look at all the buildings that we have and the list of priority ones, I was shocked. You know, to have it 3 years is a great beginning. Colleagues, I'm very good, we all feel good of where we're going. However, if you upgrade these facilities and for so many years of neglect, faster than 2 years, I'll be very, very comfortable. I'll feel a lot better.
Well,
And you know, it's about planning, like Commissioner Daniel just mentioned. Right now, I just want to be sure that I feel comfortable that as a commissioner, I'm addressing the safety of Dallas County buildings.
And it's been a good discussion.
In a more
that
effective way.
You've all informed staff, and so it looks like we'll be looking for maybe some timeline information.
Right. Absolutely.
We're going to move, unless anyone's got anything else, shall we move to the
One more
next?
comment. It's no different than the transportation area. You don't want to go borrow a bunch of money and then not be able to complete your projects or do projects. You're paying interest on it. The same thing we're doing right here. We don't want to, we want to make sure we have the capacity before we borrow the money. And that's what this timeline is going to do.
You know, and I'm being assured that the capacity is not an issue, that we have the money, that we can make it happen, that we can hire contractors to oversee whatever facilities cannot. Well, what are we doing? Why would we plan in a more effective as
We're all saying the same thing. We're all saying.
Well, but not necessarily, because, Commissioner Garcia, you still have to have internal staff that oversee the contractors, and you still have to have the departments to be able to be inconvenienced as you do that repair work. So it's just like the sheriff. If you've got 5 projects going on in the jail, they can't accommodate it without tremendous overtime. So it's just a matter of
Opening new
Opening new facilities, yeah. Because right now, we have facility mothballed, depopulated.
Right.
And just to open that facility to try to accommodate, and then classification issues, there are just so many issues that, and I hear you, Jay. But I want you to make sure that when you do those timelines, depending on the facility, that you incorporate that into the equation.
Absolutely. And, you know, the meeting at Zach's building on yesterday, where that was just energy related and elevator related. I mean, he threw on top of that something else. He's suddenly looking at a building he's not going to be able to get staff in to do what they need to do, and get the public in to be able to do what the public needs to do. So you got to make sure, you know, so the timeline is very important. I wish I had it ready for this. I probably should have anticipated that.
I saw it,
Weeks ago.
Mr. Bennett, I was out of town, and by the time I read it, it was, you know.
You know, but I just want to make sure you understand, it's not one of those timelines that you can be able to sit there and say,
I know,
in
it's
6
not-
months it said we're doing this, why aren't we? Because things are going to come up and things will happen.
But by putting it on the agenda, at least you have an idea of the totality of what you're planning
What we're
for.
attacking.
And so we look forward to getting those timelines. Thank you very much.
About time, thank you.
Next slide, just real quickly, is to show all the things that $124 million that we're currently doing. We have the MedMod project going, Grand Prairie Sub Courthouse is almost completed. Frank Crowley 8th floor finish out is almost completed on the north side, though there will be a south side project at some point We just really started the elevator escalator modernization. Energy conservation, phase 1 and 2 are going forward. 3, 4, and A's and B's are still in holding pattern and will move forward. And then, I won't read them all, but you can see them, they're all there. The last one is the Founders Plaza. We need to make sure that we have that one moving in the right direction. I believe Rick has that under control. Next is, talks about your $70 million plus of priority 1, 2s, and 3s. 65 million of it was right there at priority 1s. So I kind of laid out the money and how the money will be set up there, and then how we'll fund those projects. We'll get you the timeline so you can get a real feel and grasp of what we're talking about and how we'll get that done. Do remember, the majority of what we do is through vendors. You know, there's some things that facilities does directly, but the majority of the stuff really is through vendors. So it is that management of the vendors and getting the vendors through and out that's really causing the strain and stress on them. Here's $53 million worth of additional stuff that we have. I had thrown on there's just some real short timelines giving you fiscal years. Obviously, we're going to get you a whole lot more detail of how we can get those and when those things will be moving forward. The last slide was kind of really just talking about other things and other capacities. You know, one of the things that doesn't get described very often because we don't think about it, but there is a permanent improvement fund that gets about a little over $3 million each year that is nothing but for replacements and improvements of our facilities. So over a 2 or 3 year facility improvement, there's another $9 million worth of funding that we'll be able to put towards the project. I wanted to talk about the water line just briefly. There was a question as it relates to whether we pull this out of specific commissioners' projects or from NCIP. My response at that point is no. If there is going to be a payback, and I believe everything we've talked about is that if this line goes forward, there will be a payback, then we would just borrow from the overall cash available with the understanding that the payback would occur in the same way as the utilities.
Where's the payback coming from?
I haven't seen specifics, but I anticipate there would be an agreement with certain cities that as their property base value increases, that there would be a...
You do a development fund.
This particular water line is really kind of I believe, originating in land.
This is the water line to open up the minimum, the first phase, to open up through what COG has designated as infrastructure for that southeast corridor. This is the water line wherein if Lancaster is successful with their amendment to DWU and the 30 million, that was water utilities, I'm sorry. That was water utilities. That on a 30 million gallon a day tank, which Lancaster now has, they're using 9 million gallons. They have 21 million gallons every day that they take that can be redistributed to Wilmer, to the Hutchins area. And then this basically includes a water line to that area.
And that's the key.
Right, that's the key. The water's got to flow. You can have all the land, you have all the land, you have all the land in the world. If you don't need water,
Thank you very much.
And needless to say, it is an extremely complicated issue that multiple people have been working on for a long time.
Conversations to become more aware of that, please.
The last slide is...
Hold on. The water line is important for many reasons, but one of the things where you can really see it's important when you look at the taxable value percentage increases in the town of Wilmer and Hutchins. They're up 60 and 70% over a year. And we're seeing tremendous opportunity down there. And so that's something that as we come out of this recession, and people there's a lot of pent-up demand for purchase. And people have to put those products somewhere in warehouses. We're seeing a lot of warehousing activity there. What's happening is that area of Dallas County is running out of water. What's also happening is, I was talking to the people who run Alliance on Friday about this because we spoke at a seminar in Austin about transportation. Logistics resets at about 6 million. In other words, when you have if you look at Chicago right now, when they reached about a critical mass of 6 million people in Chicagoland, they built whole new logistics hubs because the first logistics hub only covered about 6 million, and the next group of people had another logistics area. Fastest growing logistics area outside of Alliance right now in the Metroplex is the airport area. You really got to maximize that opportunity for Southern Dallas. The water line opens up about 1,500 more acres for development, but just as importantly, it gives a steadier pressure there, which is critical for manufacturing jobs. And for logistics jobs, that's a big warehouse where you run a forklift and Amazon distribution, something like that. Those are good jobs, $18 to $22 an hour jobs with benefits, but they're more the square foot. There's not a whole lot of them. And you take a manufacturing job will load about the same amount of money, but it loads a lot more people in there. It's a lot more good jobs for the same amount of square footage. So we're looking to do two things in that. And we're looking to do a lot of things in that area, but water and electricity, which we have an abundance of electricity there, infrastructure, which is all these roads that we're working on. Those are the three things other than an educated workforce, and we've got a good workforce pool there. The business looks for and building those things. I think that's why you're seeing all that activity getting up there. Now we just got to keep that going, and we got to work through this red tape and get the water, because that is that one little piece down there that seems to be running out.
84 inches.
Well, yeah.
That's a lot of water.
Yeah.
Ultimately, 84 what? 84 inch what? Oh, no, that's a different pipe.
No, this is a small pipe.
Yeah, this is a 16-inch pipe here. You know, that one that's going from there over to Southwest Dallas County. Yeah, it's already built in Child Road. We're already doing that. No, this is servicing just the primarily that 1,500 acres that begins to open up that potentially probably 6,000 acres in that area. But no, this is strictly for that particular area.
This is taking the excess capacity that Lancaster already buys from Dallas Water Utility and utilizing that for economic development in that area. And I hate to call it a short-term fix, because it's not a short-term fix, it can still be there. But that 96 isn't going to be, the big water line isn't going to be done for years. So we got to move now. Coming out of the recession, we can't really miss this opportunity. There's not that many opportunities when you really think about it south of 30 that are unique to south of 30 to Dallas County. But two railroads nearly touching one another with 3 interstate highways in an area where you've got 6.8 million consumers. That gives us something nobody else has. If we can capitalize on that, then we can change the tax base dynamic and the quality of life dynamic for people in that area.
Definitely keep us apprised. Thank you very much.
The last slide just kind of talks briefly about one of the things that we have been doing is, as we've done some of our technology projects, we've been actually using the cash available in the major capital fund. There's always been discussion that there will be a payback. Right now, I believe we've borrowed about $4.86, $4.8 million. We'll continue to monitor that and work with IT as it relates to the payback on that. This kind of just also talked about that at some point we may have to borrow another $10 million to be able to do the implementation of the ACS courts. And so that also is being planned for and worked within our capacity of the dollars that we have. Lastly, I just wanted to talk about the two things that really I don't have a capacity that we're dealing with at this point in time. One is when the radio project moves forward with the city of Dallas. We're married with them on this one, and so as they become available with their funds, then we'll just follow right behind. Last I heard is they're going to try to put that into the next May, not this May, but the next May bond election that they're going to do. Assuming that passed and they had funds available, we would probably have to go out and do another tax note for $57 million. to allow us to have the funds available to tag out of that. And then the last one is obviously there's always transportation opportunities that may come up that we will need to discuss. And if it's a new major one that we don't have, that's not already part of what Alberta does on our call for projects, then obviously we would need to discuss. Probably not a tax note, but some other financing.
So there are actually two things that TxDOT is looking at. That we reached kind of a back of a handshake deal to go forward and discuss with people between Michael Morris, Phil Wilson, and myself Friday. And that is not a handshake deal to do anything, but just a handshake deal to stop fighting long enough to, or not to stop fighting, but to agree in principle about how we would go forward in presenting something. And that's what I call a public-public partnership. We've got these public-private partnerships where we go to Centra and we go to manage lanes on 635. The money that Centra gets from that, or to do that, they put in some of their own capital, but they borrow money also, or get money also from pension funds and from public sources. So we had talked months ago about 161 where that bus accident happened, and about I asked TxDOT to run some numbers. What if Dallas County found a mechanism to partner so that Dallas County could create a revenue stream? And those preliminary numbers came back in such a way that it enticed the RTC to say that perhaps that they should get that opportunity. But we think we worked through that. I don't have the numbers, but that's not so much a transportation project as it is an opportunity to take the good management, primarily the two men on either side of me, decisions to pay down that MCIP, put us in this place where we're double, triple A bond rated, balanced against, for instance, NTTA's decision to do things that put them in a financial pinch point today. Could we, without taking advantage of our partners, but could we help our partners build things? And TxDOT or 1420 is one of the things TxDOT is looking at now. Can we do that and create an internal rate of return that far surpasses our the cost of our money by helping our neighbors? So we'll continue to look at that and bring that forward. That's what that idea is about. And I think TxDOT right now is looking at two things. 161, where they know that there's a need where the bus wreck happened, where there's a bottleneck and a need, perhaps if we want the money, they can pay us back on a short-term basis, and then we have a revenue stream pretty much into perpetuity until we're building. And they're looking at something similar on 183. So whenever they present something, we can look at that.
That was all I had related to the capital for tonight. There's also a presentation by RBC if you want to see it. I think most of you, we've talked about it. So I think the only then real question left is related to the underwriting rate. And so I'll throw that out there. The last I heard was that we would look at just two underwriters, and that it would be you don't need three. And if you get, when you look, I believe we sent you the information we talked about since 2001, the issue of the dollars, you'll see that it's a little top heavy with the top firm making the most money, and so this will allow us to remove that top firm and put the two minority firms that are lower on the list to be able to start equalizing that over time.
Right, and that's the reason I asked for
the three firms worked out and agreed.
Judge, I hear you, but the reason I asked for the whole equitable issue was because, everybody's been, the same people have been, feeding at the trough, and I said that around the state, you got the same people. Well, I mean, why? Dallas County, the same thing jam Parkland up about it. By the way, I'm gonna look at their issues too. But, you know, my point is that if you've got people who get a chance to kind of leverage the playing field now, well,
Commissioner, that's also why, if they have a lead, that's also why that certain ones take the lead and we rotate it.
but did you see the spraying though?
I saw it great.
Yeah, but look what one has done versus the others. I mean, look at the spraying. And that's the reason I asked for them.
So we just knock somebody out.
Well, but we've done that, and if you look,
Two out of what, 5?
2 out of 5.
2 out of 5?
We've had 2.
We're talking about knocking out Ron Davis's firm?
I'm talking about,
Yeah, they do a tremendous amount of help. In fact, they're working right now on this one, these opportunities that we hope may, and it's all in the numbers, the devil's in the details, but they may find ways to create revenue for our taxpayers because of these historically low interest rates.
Judge, and I appreciate that, but so maybe so, but say where they're,
Maybe so, but these are the folks that have been doing that work. And Dwight, I see Dwight here. Do you guys not have an agreement as to what y'all want to do? What?
They had an agreement.
You already have an agreement. Why are we?
Well, because again, when we get a chance to make a decision, Judge.
Okay. I respect that, and you can vote as you like, or I understand it, but is there a proposal from the three of you?
Judge, Commissioner Dwight Burns, investment banker with Starting Hills. We serve at the service of the court. We would say that any split that you are in agreement with, would be fine with us. We've worked with almost every firm, regional firm, a large investment banking firm, firms that work with the county past, and we would be fine working with them.
The more things change, the more they remain the same. My position was I asked for the spread for a reason, just to show what everybody's getting. Now, if you got that question that you're tossing somebody, toss it to them too. Toss it to AFA people. Well, I'm just saying.
Okay. If he knows, the AFA guys, do they have an agreement? I had dinner with Noe.
I haven't done with nobody. I'm just saying.
It's my understanding they got an agreement. So if they've got an agreement, and we already decided and voted 2 weeks ago on who the three were. And now they decided what their split they're recommending. Why don't we hear from them on what that is? And then you're absolutely right. If you want to do something completely different, get rid of one of them. You can vote that way. But should we not hear what they have come up with first?
Judge,
I'm in a bad place. I realize now, Dwight. So don't answer that question. Don't sit back down. I'm sorry for that.
We will be briefed on what the final distribution.
There will actually be a court order next Tuesday that will have details
So
on a
this is
variety
the
of different things. We just didn't want to have a court order that had no numbers or anything in it, which is not a preferred method of doing things.
But no support from the
But
court.
yes.
Okay, so we
There
have
has
that.
been no vote of the commission's court yet. There has been dialogue about what the firms would be, and then there was some information provided to the commission's court. Unfortunately, I cannot pull it up on the projector. It's not working. But from that information, I received some additional direction of the commissioner's court, which was that we would go with just 2 firms. Now it is up to the court to kind of make a decision. Do you want 2? Do you want 3? And then
I understood that was all had agreed on the 3, that it was just going to be the spread and the number. And if they're all agreed, I'm fine with that.
If you guys want to throw out there what you believe that 3 agreement was, or I
I
can
don't
certainly
know.
make an assumption.
I know they had one, but I don't know what it is.
I believe what you're going to, I anticipate, I have no real knowledge of this, but I anticipate there is 3 firms. It would be Estrada Hinojosa as the senior, then you would have Seabird as a co, and then you have First Southwest as a co. Typically, because you have the 30 firms, I believe you would see a 40-30-30 split.
Sounds good. I'm okay.
Or something, it's.
No, that's not, that wasn't my understanding, but Matt, where are you? That's not, I thought it was
Was there
30,
something else,
30, was it
that I didn't know about?
36?
Well, Matt Bowles, RBC. There were a couple different thoughts and no decision was ultimately made. It was 40-30-30, and then it was also the third, and so take your direction. How you want to do it, any way you want to do it.
Third sounds good to me. I can go with third, keep on doing it.
The weighting is 40, correct?
Right.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Three leads and make it a third. You have someone's going
But
to.
you're not liquidating those numbers. That wasn't what it was.
My understanding is they got together and agreed to something, and I think what they agreed to was that the Australian Embassy would make more money, but I don't know what that is. So, and maybe I'm mistaken, maybe they didn't agree, so why don't we have, we can get that information from them and have a representative come and tell us next week.
What we'll do is we'll contact them, and the court order will reflect what we understand.
And I don't have any problem with the lead, what percentage.
Yeah.
That was the bottom line from what y'all generated. And there have been certain firms that have always made the money. And they continue to make the money. They make the money here, they make the money in Harris County, they make the money, Matt, do they make the same people seem to be, and I'm not putting you in, I'm just saying in terms of your industry, it appears to me the same people make the money all around the state.
It's a fairly small world in terms of the players in the market.
Fairly small world.
And Ms. Court would need to know what those numbers are before that vote is taken.
It has to be contained in the court order.
And remember, it's not just.
We haven't seen much.
All three of these firms.
Brian says, we'll get with Matt and we'll figure out the distribution.
Thank you very much.
Was that sent out in an email on the breakdown?
Yes.
Yes.
On Friday. I sent it to Friday. I think the judge responded on Saturday evening, and they have a follow-up on Saturday.
Here's the slide which Preston referred to, at least as it relates to the same firms in Texas. So you have
Same.
First Southwest is ranked 9th in Texas last year based on issuances, while you then go down to 20th was Savaginosa and
I think if I recall correctly, was it 12 city like that?
Seabird is 12.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, that email just shows the dollars being spent over that 10-year period. Clearly, the one firm had made this. And dialogue the court will have, so we will talk with the firms.
Well, and that's a factor, but the work and the benefit of people, all, and I'm not, all of them, but the work that, for instance, on the possibility of revenue streams of Ron Davis, it has to be factored in as well.
If you continue to ask, and I'm going to tell you like I told Parkland, you continue to fish in the same hole, you'll keep catching catfish or bass or whatever you want. You keep talking, going back to that firm, if you keep asking them, if you didn't ask anybody else, they'll, I'm sure that they're capable. They're all AAA, we're AAA, and they're all firms that are rated nationally and statewide. Some people have the advantage.
We look forward to getting it.
Yes,
Thank
I
you
look
very
forward to
much.
seeing when it comes out as well.
With that, Judge, include your business agenda, you have one speaker list.
All right, and will available, please read the rules of the court.
All Commissioners Court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with the provisions of the Dallas County Code, Section 7471. Visitors and registered speakers are to preserve order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, and slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all clauses to be kept brief in observance of time constraints. Disruptive visitors and/or registered speakers may be removed and are subject to penalties provided in the state of Texas of Penal Code sections 3813, 4201, and 4205. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and a maximum discussion on any topic is limited to 30 minutes.
Judge, this gentleman is a guest of co-chair, Commissioner Dr. Lisa Daniels.
We'd very much like to hear from Mr. Cole. Announcement.
You want to give your name for the record? Pull it back down, Judge, please.
Sure. Thank you, first of all, Commissioners Anderson and Commissioner Price, long-term support of Apr. My name is Joe Powell, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means is that I haven't had a drink of alcohol in 25 years, and I haven't done any other drugs since 1973. And it's only because of long-term recovery that I'm able to be the executive director of Court Apr, the Association of Persons Affected by Addiction, who provides recovery community support services. And what that means is peer-to-peer. We had a federal SAMHSA grant in 1990 two terms for 8 years provided by the federal government to provide recovery support services by people who's in recovery for those seeking recovery. One of the things that for the last 15 years we've been providing and been part of the recovery movement nationally, statewide, and of course here in Dallas County. And I'm also a licensed criminal dependency counselor for 20 years right here in Dallas County. After what we do, of course, not only do we reduce the relapse for people, we also promote recovery. And I think that listening even today at the Commissioner's Court, what's going on, one of the things that the mission is that how do we promote recovery? You know, sort of like any other health problem, when we talk about cancer or diabetes or HIV and AIDS, you know, including, I was just talking with our director of HHS, Zachary Thompson, about how do we promote and we collaborate to really get the word out that people do recover from addiction and mental illness. And one of the things that we do, of course, is that we're all over, as far as wherever people are, I want to be there to promote recovery, to provide recovery support services. But we just not, as a member of the Dallas BHLT, Behavioral Health Leadership Team, and Policy Academy for the state, and on and on and on, we are not getting the word out, and we're not really championing recovery in Dallas County. And I heard Commissioner Garcia describe earlier everything, and we got right to that point there, of course, as far as, yeah, we got all the resources right here. But the one thing we don't have is that we're not promoting recovery.
What are you doing?
Right. So the White House, actually, we're showing a movie on this Thursday night at the Studio Movie Grill. We have 300 seats, and it's called The Anonymous People. And The Anonymous People is about people that are in long-term recovery for the last 15 years and how we've been doing for the last 15 years to promote recovery around the country. And of course, we're in the movie also, but it's all about peers and the resources of people in recovery. You know, we know that people are hiding in the churches, we know people are hiding in 12-step programs, you know, and people that just don't see recovery in our community. They see drugs, alcohol, the liquor store, you know, see the crack, and of course the traffic. We just moved, our new place, 6,000 square feet on Martin Luther King Boulevard. But again, so the traffic we see, and then, so the goal is that recovery flourishes in support of communities. And how is Dallas County supporting and promoting recovery? And that's one of the things that I want to do, is also committee cabinet, Mr. Thompson, that somehow we want to get a strategic plan, how do we get together and promote recovery in Dallas County.
Which movie grill?
Studio Movie Grill on Royal and 75. Right, we have 300 seats, and we have a seat for you and all the commissioners.
It's Thursday evening at what time?
And it starts at 6:30. And I am the film director, the person who directed it. Of course, we got, just to let you know, in the movie, Congressman Kennedy and a whole lot of other congressmen. We do have the addiction caucus in the White House. There is a recovery branch now in the White House under the Office of National Drug Control Policy. But when you can go to the recovery branch and you see that, and they're promoting this film too. But again, my goal is here is to ask you for the support, and let's promote, just like how we got Susan B. Komen with cancer, you know, and we got HIV. We need health, mental health, and we do need substance use.
Education and prevention.
Education, prevention, but also raising the awareness that people do recover. We need to have it on a large scale, and I think that the county can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being an integral part of the behavioral health leadership redesign team.
All right. Who's